YouTube Ozic Owen the Godows is back after the Thanksgiving NFL games in Week 12. I'm here with my recap. I'm going to have a takeaway, multiple takeaways for every single team, so all 6 teams that played on Thanksgiving. So similar video is the one we do on Monday, which we'll have that still, and that will be with including the Friday and Sunday games when we get to that Monday video. So excited about this. Got some good takeaways for all 6 teams here. And yeah, join us for all of our content. We got loads of it. Always adding more. Like, subscribe to notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. Links pinned in the comments for our social media. And our sponsors, Liquid IV, actually 30% off for a short time during the holiday weekend here. Always adding new flavors there. Code GOAT. GLD Shop, always rocking their jewelry everywhere I go. 33% off code GOAT. There's a giveaway for GLD. Links pinned in the comments for that. So start with the first winner. The Green Bay Packers, which was the only upset, and they looked pretty good. They won. It felt like they won by more than 29-22. If you watch the game, you know what I'm saying. I know the Lions had their chances. If they didn't maybe fake a punt, they could have came back. But basically, the Packers just felt like they completely outplayed the Lions. So that's what I mean by they felt like they won by more than 7 points. Your odd score 29-22 feels like rapid improvement for the Packers. I mean, you look at like 4 weeks ago, it looks like a totally different team. Like when they lost to the Vikings, the Broncos, around that range, it's like, okay, this is a bad team. Like I was sitting there thinking, like I thought they would be a little bit better. I didn't like have crazy belief in them this year, but I thought they'd be a little bit better. They're not good. Like I'm like in the back of my mind, I'm like, are they actually one of the worst teams in football? But now they just like look like a totally different team, and they've improved. We talked about early in the year, they looked pretty good. But things were kind of bland, predictable. Could they actually decline as teams start to game plan for them? I think that was the case, but they've actually figured out a way to kind of reverse that. And I do think a lot of it is young players developing and playing better. But, LaFleur's been under some heat. I don't know if there's been talk of they need to fire him, anything like that. But got to give credit to him, too, because he's kind of turned this thing around. Again, the crazy improvement over the last few weeks. This is like improvement you see through the offseason, from end of the year to the beginning of next year. So, and it's not, set in stone like they've improved. We want to see more, but it sure looks like it. Jordan Love's been playing pretty good football. I thought he played much better last week. I actually go back to the Steelers game that they lost. Majority of that game, he looked better, like getting the ball out, knowing when to throw the ball, getting it out on time. The deep ball looked pretty, making plays, not turning the ball over through a majority of that Steelers game. And then all it took was kind of the end of that game, a couple turnovers. So it was such a small portion of that game, but it still happened. But you see improvement. You see improvement because he played majority of the game just playing better. In the Chargers game, he continued that, but then didn't have the turnovers. So that was fantastic. And then this game against a pretty solid Lions team, played great. And the big difference in this game for me wasn't so much the turnovers. Obviously, didn't have the turnovers. That was great. But again, just getting the ball out on time. And there was moments, through that losing streak or when they weren't looking that great where I can see, when I watch him play, I see him think too much. Do I run? Do I throw? And he's not really thinking. I seen him run on 3rd and even 4th and long where it's like, you got to throw the ball. And you can see, he doesn't really know what to do. And that's not a great look, but that's actually where I saw the difference, kind of knowing what to do, knowing that I have to throw the ball here. The ball has to come out at this time. I love that. I love that from Love, that we saw that. So that shows he can improve. He can continue to improve. I think it helps that his young playmakers are getting separation. They were getting separation pretty early on in routes. Not that they haven't been getting separation this year, but I noticed it more earlier in the plays. I think they're coming up with better play calls, play designs that fit the strength of this team, changing it up too. So you credit everyone all the way through. That receiving core, we've talked about it even when they were struggling. They seem pretty solid. A lot of young players. Christian Watson, I think mainly. I think that guy has a ton of upside, and I kind of wondered, him as a prospect. He has a ton of upside because of athletic ability, his length, but he was kind of a one-dimensional receiver in college. It's sometimes those receivers that they stick on one side of the ball and then he either runs a go or runs a screen or an end around. They don't really work out in the NFL. Most of the time, even when we think they're pretty damn good, most of the time they don't really work out. So you did kind of wonder that. And even last year when he's scoring touchdowns, it's like, all right, he shows up for like one play because they either run a go or an end around him. But I see some things from him that says he's getting better as an actual NFL receiver. And that's a good example of, and he had good stats in this game, but it's a good example of, because last year he had the stats too, because he'd have like a bomb and a touchdown, and his stats look good. But really, if you watched, he needs to be more involved. But doing things that NFL receivers do, I'm kind of seeing. He had a touchdown in this game, which I thought was beautiful. He didn't torch the defender off the line, but he beat him. Good move. Got a step or two on him. And then he used his arm length to kind of keep that separation. I always look for that. And it kind of like some people will call for pass interference because he kind of sticks his arm out, defender runs into it. Like, never going to be called because he has him beat, and he's kind of just putting himself in position, keeping himself in position to keep keep that separation basically. And I see Jamar Chase mastered that. That's why he had that mastered in college. So it's like this guy's NFL traits. More than that, but right away, you see Julio win with that. DeAndre Hopkins is kind of famous for that. So we're seeing that from like a raw prospect, a guy that is like just kind of known as a speedster with Lane Christian Watson. Pretty good sign. And Rashawn Gary is a monster, but he was an absolute monster in this game, obviously, everywhere, making plays, probably the MVP of this game. And give credit to Jonathan Owens, Jordan Love, Christian Watson, guys like that. But Rashawn Gary was crazy, going crazy in this game. And he gets pressure, it's only a matter of time before he turns it into crazy amount of sacks. And he has been getting sacks, so it's not like he has that. So I was very impressed there in a pretty cool moment, if you didn't see it in the locker room after the game, with him coming back from that injury and having a career-high sack game here. So Packers impressed. They're getting going. Can they stay consistent? Are they improved for good? Yeah. So I guess some questions, but they seem to be improved, so I'm excited about them. To the team they beat, the Lions, who were heavy favorites, they lose 22-29, obviously. Since that Ravens game, including that Ravens game, but since then, they just haven't really seemed the same. They seem like they decline a little bit. The defense definitely gives up more through the air, but on the ground as well. Not that they're getting the best part about their defense is probably the run defense, but so not that it's getting torched or anything like that. It's still much improved since the past, but they seem very beatable on defense. Where early in the year it was great, and that's why at the end of last year, statistically on the year, in general, how would you categorize the Lions' defense last year? Not good. It was bad last year, but I think too many people looked at the last few games because it was a really good defense and just automatically decided, hey, that's going to be the defense this year. Forget the other stuff. We're only going to see that. There was too many people convinced with that, and we actually saw it through a beginning portion of this year, and everyone's like, see, we were right. Now teams are starting to figure it out. I'm like, all right, there's a young defense that isn't fully there yet. Let's game plan more properly for it. I mean, it's a beatable defense, so those negatives haven't completely disappeared. But offensively, they just don't seem as consistent on offense. It feels like they do rely on the run. They do rely on having the pocket completely clean. The offensive line isn't playing as well as it, and it's okay. It's still one of the better offensive lines. But everything isn't going great for them. They were kind of relying on everything going great for them. Goff is really struggling lately. Again, he needs to be every quarterback. There's pretty much a difference between when he's kept clean and when he's not. But you don't notice it with guys. We're not saying Goff should be the guys I'm about to mention, but like Mahomes, really there isn't too many. Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, maybe. The difference in play when they're kept clean and not. There is if you were to tell me, ask me which quarterbacks, is there a major difference in that category? I think Goff's maybe at the top. He relies on having that elite offensive line, and they haven't been protecting him at that elite level like they were. I still think a pretty good level. It may not look like it because Goff is getting sacked, turning the ball over. He also needs teams to run a lot of man coverage, and I was saying that last year, the team's second most man coverage against them, and that was surprising because in his history, in his past, teams picked him off in zone coverage. And Amon-Ra St. Brown and their weapons, they dominate man. They're good enough players where they're going to beat zone too, but they absolutely obliterate man coverage. So I'm in the offseason, I'm going, teams got to run more zone on them, and they haven't really been in the beginning of the year. Now they're starting to do it a little bit, and that kind of goes into my next thing, kind of getting figured out on every level with Goff. And I guess getting pressure isn't really that much part of a game plan, but they understand if we get pressure on this guy, he's not the same. But running more zone coverage, mixing it up, not just running one thing, one type of coverage, mixing it up, throwing him off a little bit. But teams are finding a way to get through this offensive line a little bit more. But defensively as well, I mean, the defense was scheming things up early in the year. A lot of stunts and twists, mainly designed for Aiden Hutchinson because he is way better rushing when rushing inside. So they were kind of scheming things up for him, and that's where the production was going. But he struggles a little bit off the edge with keeping contained and missing reads and missing assignments. So teams are kind of game planning for them better in that category. Teams are getting separation on them more, understanding that, they're kind of getting predictable in their coverages. A lot of man in cover two. 2-man under, the teams are they're getting predictable. They're getting figured out in that category as well. And then I threw special teams in there as well because they're, Dan Campbell on that fake, from your own 25, 24-yard line. He's been doing it and he's been getting it. But even in those moments, it's like, God, was that the right, I know they got it, but was that really the right decision? Because you lose the game like completely if you don't do it. And if you watch, the Packers not only knew it was coming, they knew which way it was going. If you watch that whole, it was basically defense. The whole defense, special teams, punt return team, if you want to call it that, flowed to exactly where they're going. It wasn't even close. So it was only a matter of time until that was going to backfire because teams are expecting it more. At times it looked great. It worked out, but it was maybe too ballsy even though it worked out. So they're kind of starting to get game plan for it. It's like usually when we say that, it's like, all right, that quarterback or this defense. But no, it's the quarterback. It's the offensive line. It's mixing up the coverages to make it a little harder on the weapons, but it's more so the quarterback. It's, game planning for their stunts, how they rely on getting pressure, on getting sacks. It's their coverages on defense, understand that they're probably going to be in man coverage and we're going to beat that. The young receivers were getting set, let's run slants and just get open quickly over the middle of the field because it's pretty easy if they're not playing enough press man to get separation on quick slants. And when you're crossing, it's really hard. Somebody's bound to get kind of shaking off their guy. They're getting predictable on every level, and it is exactly why they are not as good. And I still view them as a good team, so don't get me wrong. I'm kind of just making a take on this game. And, how they have been playing, it makes sense that they haven't been playing great since the Ravens game because there's a little bit more on film. And they're getting more predictable. It's common sense. It happens to everybody, but some teams make it a little bit more noticeable than others. And I do think something I don't love is they relied on development too much. That really isn't a take on this game, but it kind of shows on this game. But they've drafted very well. I've loved the job that Brad Holmes has done. I still don't love the Jack Campbell pick. I've loved draft picks from them over the last several years. I've kind of gave them praise on that. But the Campbell pick, and he looks lost when he plays. Derek Barnes plays more than him. He started getting more snaps over him, then Barnes taken away from him, and Barnes isn't the best linebacker in football. When Campbell's in there, he kind of looks lost a lot. So they definitely took him too early, and I know he could be. It's only half or more than half of one season. He can be better, but I still think that was just too early. But besides the point, I've loved the way they've done the job they've done. I've loved the way they develop players. So I'm not saying they've done a bad job at that. They've done maybe better than anybody when it comes to that in football. But they've had moments where they could have got better here, there, and they got better in the offseason, but could have got free agents here. At the trade deadline, they're a little beat up at corner. They really, they're thin at corner. The guys that have been playing have been giving up easy separation. You could have went out and tried to get better in those areas. I think they're kind of just we got really good young players. We've drafted well. We've developed well, which is all true. But understanding, you aren't that same team anymore. You aren't that developing team anymore. You're supposed to be a very good team. I think that's showing a little bit right now. It's a small thing because, again, they've drafted well. They got good, talented players everywhere that are continuing to get better. They've done as good of a job as anyone developing. So it's not a complete knock. It's just, I think fans could agree with me on that. I think they've wanted better players when they have the opportunity here and there, getting more veteran players. So I think we can be in agreement on that. But Lions, again, good team. I think they're starting to get figured out a little bit. Doesn't mean they're going to go from like worst to first. They're still the top team in the NFC North for a reason. They're still a very solid team. They're going to win a lot of football games. They'll probably adjust to this, but it's just something that I want to say something I noticed, but everyone should be noticing that. It's kind of it's a fact. It's not an opinion at this point. The Cowboys won again in dominant fashion, 45-10. They started a little slow, but just another dominant outing. And they are playing the easier teams, but there's teams slipping up against those teams. They're barely escaping. Like the Eagles, I know it's a different matchup. The Eagles barely escaped the Commanders, but the Cowboys just dominate them 45-10. Just another dominant outing and winning in multiple ways. Like Dak, pass game. Pollard running well. Donald, he's running well as well. Brandon Cooks getting going. I mean, CeeDee Lamb was solid, but maybe he could be even better. Ferguson making all these guys making big plays, and then defensively they win with just being locked down, stopping them, getting pressure, getting interceptions. Freaking Deron Bland getting a 5th pick 6 of the year record. That's unbelievable. That's the way he jumped. I know it wasn't the best throw; it needed to be more outside, but the way he just reads the quarterback and jumps the routes, and how he scored on that too. I mean, the speed, the jukes, the quickness. I can't believe he scored on that. And seeing Dan Quinn going nuts and then Nance's call on that was great. Kind of gave me goosebumps there. I played corner too, so I kind of get more excited when corners make incredible plays or just make history like that. So that was awesome. But yeah, winning in multiple, it's pretty plain and simple. They could beat you in multiple different ways. And so what if something's off? Like I think the passing game pretty much, like when we're talking like playoffs against big teams, the passing game is going to need to be there. That's just the era of the NFL. But like let's say the running game's off, the passing game can win, the defense can win. Defense can still win big time ball games. They can win in multiple different ways. The point, Dak is playing really good ball right now, really good, but like probably as good as he can play. Will this keep up in the playoffs? Will that stage affect him? I sure hope he continues to play well because I think it's good to see for football here. Micah Parsons played a great game. Gilmore had a big pass breakup that probably could have been a touchdown and maybe could have kept the Commanders in the game. I liked right before half. Like they're for the Cowboys, for being the Cowboys and being the much better team than their opponent. Like they were a little slow early, a couple missed opportunities. They were still outplaying them. They were still outplaying the Commanders. But like right before half, it's like the Commanders just scored. We gotta go score. We just gotta do it. Great drive. 20 seconds left when they score. 26 seconds, something like that. I love that. I love like that mentality of like if we got to do it, we're going to go do it. Like, we got to be great here. I love that. So that was that was probably my favorite thing of the game, besides Deron Bland making history. Right before half, I think that was the moment where it's like, okay, they mean business. They're going to win this game. I mean, you could predict they're going to win the game going in, but that was the moment specifically in this game where it's like, all right, yeah, they're gonna go win this game. They're in the driver's seat. If the Commanders start to get close, the Cowboys will figure out a way to win this game. So I don't have a long list of takeaways there, but for the Cowboys, it's pretty straightforward, but really good things, and that's something small that maybe no one's talking about, but I love things like that. And then who they beat, the Commanders. I struggled on both sides. We've talked about it. They've been out of sync during this year. The offense and defense can't get on the same page, but on this game, neither were on the same page. Like, they were both just bad in this game. I guess the Cowboys were a little slow again early. I mean, Dak had Lamb open for a touchdown earlier. They missed on one play there that could have changed. They could have made it out of hand early too, but it wouldn't have been out of hand at that point, but if you add that touchdown, it probably would have got to that point. The point it did, but earlier. I just didn't love it on either side of the ball. It feels like they have needs everywhere, but, between Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, I like what they have there. And I like their receivers, McLaurin, John Dotson, Curtis Samuel probably played the best out of the bunch in this game. Honestly, they disappear sometimes, though. Like, McLaurin was a great receiver, but he'll randomly disappear. But I don't think they need a receiver. And you could throw safety in there because I do like their safety duo. But there is times where I think they mess up a little bit, and that could happen to anybody. So you could throw safety in there as well. But these are the main things of their offense. But they could use everything. Offensive line's bad. And before the year, I ranked every single offensive line. And I ranked Commanders 32, while most people, I probably was the only person to rank the Commanders 32 on offensive line. People were probably ranking them in the bottom half, but people were ranking other offensive lines there. And then Commanders fans were like, yeah, we know they're not good, but you're wrong about them being dead last. I think Commanders fans agree with me now. I think they would love to agree with me now that the Commanders maybe, actually, I don't even know. It's probably debatable who actually, right now, how they're playing is the worst offensive line, but it's bad. They need almost an entire offensive line. It feels like Sam Howell. It's not an excuse for me for Sam Howell. Offensive lines don't force quarterbacks to turn the ball over or take sacks all the time. It could contribute. So I don't want people. I'm not an excuse guy. I'm not an excuse guy for quarterbacks. Like, if you're going to turn the ball over as much as you are, if you're Sam Howell, or get sacked as a record amount of sacks he's on pace for as Sam Howell, you better make the damn plays. And he does make some wild plays here and there, but in this game, like, he went through a stretch without a turnover, and he's just not making the plays. So, and he has receivers. Some people want to make excuses that quarterbacks don't have receivers. He has receivers, and I guess they could play a little bit better too. But the pick six was brutal. Like, just not thrown far enough. It's late on the throw. You can question if there's enough velocity on it too. I know he has the capabilities to put enough under that ball, behind that ball. So it's like you get sacked that many times, you turn the ball over that many times with interceptions and fumbles throughout the year. It's like you got to question it. Like, he can cut down on those things, but honestly, how is he going to cut down on those things? People think if he gets a better offensive line, they're going to disappear. Like, it's not the case. Like, usually quarterbacks that have those issues, they stay with those issues. And again, that isn't me saying, like, if he's a starter full-time next year, he's going to throw as many interceptions, he's going to get sacked as many times. I would sure hope that it's less, but how much less? So there are some questions there. I know he doesn't have a lot of starts under his belt, but there is a lot of questions. Like, is he the guy? Like, you do have to be picky when it comes to quarterbacks in today's era. You pretty much know right away if he's the guy or not. And people will bring up, like, we'll look at Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. I got two reasons why that is a bad take. First off, if you say that, I've seen it people in my mentions haven't really mentioned those guys when it came to Howell. So I'm not specifically picking out Howell and their fans or anything like that, but just in general. But if you use that, like, our quarterback's not good right now, but he's going to get better. He's going to figure it out. He's going to make ridiculous improvement because Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts, you're kind of agreeing with them, not because what you're saying, what's coming out of your mouth is 2 out of thousands because of Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen, 2 quarterbacks out of thousands and thousands that play. You're giving your quarterback those chances, so you're basically agreeing, with the negative takes on him, and the take, like, Josh Allen, like, still has those turnover problems. He's great. Sam Howell's not Josh Allen. He's not going to be Josh Allen, but he's still very talented. And Josh Allen makes up for it with big plays and scores. That's kind of the point. Like, if you're going to turn the ball over and take that many sacks, you better make those big time plays, which he does here and there. But so I don't agree with that take if you're using that take. I think they're lacking a positive identity. Like, there's nothing about this team. Again, they got good interior defensive linemen. There's nothing, like, great going with this team. Like, there's nothing like week to week, you can go, all right, the Commanders could win this game because anybody can win every week, it feels like, but they could win this game because they're good here, like, consistently. So maybe it's a consistency thing. I don't know. They fired Del Rio this morning. I always liked Del Rio, but it's so old school. His defense, it's so old school. So now's kind of the time. Rivera's kind of the same thing. It's a different era. These guys, yes, they don't have an identity. They're out of sync. They're inconsistent. Those things you put on the coaches, like the turnovers you can put on the players. So I think it's time to move on from Rivera. I said when they hired Bieniemy, my prediction was that they're going to fire Rivera pretty much no matter what, unless they're really good, and then promote Bieniemy as the head coach. I was confident that the day they hired him. I think that'll be the case, though. I think I'll be right on that, which I'm sure a lot of you had that prediction as well. So a tough go for the Commanders this year. Niners, 31-13. Displays the most dominance in the NFL, and I guess people could take that the wrong way because who's won the most? Like, the Eagles won the most. Eagles are very good, but my point with this is, I don't know, maybe other people get this feeling a lot too. Like, when I watch a lot of football, I'm sure you do out there as well. But, like, when you watch football and when you, like, see dominance, You can like feel it. Kind of gives you goosebumps. I don't know if anybody else, I'm sure other people get that feel, but it like, that's how I get. And it's like, you're like, what the hell's happening? You're like, whoa, okay. Like, this is something. Like, I think the Niners have given me that feeling more than anyone this year. And we got that in the first half. A little shaky in the second half. They got the job done. I got that right off the bat and in the first half of this game, multiple ways. I think the Niners, I got that feeling from the Niners more than any. I know I've got that feeling from the Niners more than anyone this year. That's a pretty good sign. I think it's a team to beat when healthy. Like right now, like I guess it's a fact to say the Eagles are the team to beat because they have by far the best record. They're very good. They're at the top of the NFL. But take away record and like just everyone at full strength. Well, as full strength as they could be. Like you can't really count guys that are out for the year because they're just not going to have them this year. I think the Niners are the team to beat. I think like right now to me they're the Super Bowl favorites. If they're healthy, like if you're saying, well, I'm not gonna. If you're out there saying I can't predict them in the Super Bowl because I don't think they're gonna be healthy at that time, I don't blame you. I'm not saying I'm in agreement with you, or I'm not making a statement. I'm just that's understandable. But I think when this team is healthy, and they're not even fully healthy now, but like I guess the team that was out there yesterday. So I'm not saying if this team had a funga, he's out for the year. I'm not saying that. If this team's healthy, I think this is the team. I think this is the team right now. It just feels like that to me. But everyone could have a different opinion. Christian McCaffrey's just ridiculous. I mean, he just makes plays that I don't think anyone else can make, and he's the best running back in football. I think it's pretty plain. I was on the roll with Derrick Henry. He's the best player in football. Going into this year, I'm like, it's McCaffrey's time. He kind of showed it in the playoffs when he got in the Niners, and it's surely... And it's not like that was a bold take. I think everyone was in agreement. But it's surely he's the guy. He's the guy. And he's just, again, kind of gives me goosebumps a little bit the way he plays. Like some of these guys. The D-lines really get going. It actually was it was very good, but it was a little underwhelming early in the year. It was like, you kind of like, all right, this is good, but it's the Niners D-line. Like, I'm expecting more. I want more. And it didn't really feel like they were, I think it was losing D'Amico Ryans, actually. I think played a little bit of a part. Maybe. But now they didn't really seem in sync was my point with that. It's really getting going now. I mean, Bosa's playing. I mean, he's been great all year. Now he's turning everything into sacks. He's playing elite level. Javon Hargrave's really getting going now. I mean, all these guys are getting going. They're getting Chase Young in the mix. The D-line's only going to get better. As long as it stays healthy, it's only going to get better. It's going to be a problem. I mean, Chase Young's only going to get better, too. I think Javon Hargrave's only getting better this year with this group. He's kind of getting used to this group. So just all across the board, impressed with the Niners. They can win in multiple ways. They display dominance. Charvarius Ward had a really good game in this one, too. A guy I almost forgot to mention. Everybody had a good game for the 49ers. So pumped about them. That's what I was going to mention. I forgot something when I was talking about, like, when this team is healthy. Like, a game like this, I don't know, maybe the last game too, the Jags game too, sure, but mainly a game like this, it made me realize, and it sounds stupid at first, but let me explain. It made me realize like how important Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel are, and that sounds stupid at first because it's like, those are really good players. Of course they're very important, but like I kind of go back to that Vikings game. They lost to the Vikings, and they were missing both those guys, and they lost, and it was like, but then you go, well, the Vikings were missing Justin Jefferson, so it's kind of even, and that's kind of how everyone took it. It's how I took it at the time too. But now I'm like, no, I'm like those guys, and it's two of them first off, but those guys are more important to the Niners than their talent. Like. It's just because Deebo is involved in multiple different ways than just his stat, like what he does, like statistically. Like he is involved in every way possible. He's also, even statistically, like production-wise, he's involved in the run and the pass game. He's a distraction. He opens things up for offenses, makes defenses tougher to game plan for. Trent Williams is the best in football, so you put those guys together. Yeah, and you ever see them coming out of the tunnel? Like those are the guys, like. Those are the guys. Like, those are the leaders of the team. So, it makes you go, like, it makes you take it up a notch. Like, you knew they were missing them by a lot, but it makes you go, okay, like, that, it's massive. Like, it's crazy, crazy massive. Like, that they're missing those guys. Like, so, the 3-game losing streak is, like, we'll give them a pass on that, obviously. And these guys just got to be healthy, though, when it's all said and done. They got to be healthy. That's what's been stopping the Niners. That's what's been stopping them. So I hope they stay healthy because I just enjoy watching dominance being displayed out there. Seahawks lose 13-31 to the 49ers. This game was over pretty much right away. That's not ideal. Very sloppy. I mean, Geno's sloppy. The receivers are sloppy. DK had a bad drop. You expect more separation from those guys. I thought JSM was the best of the bunch. That one-handed catch was insane. That was insane. Like, ridiculous. DJ Dallas, I couldn't think who. Muffin the punt, obviously, just sloppy across the board. You start to realize, like, how would you label the Seahawks? Like, say the Seahawks, they're a pretty good team still. They didn't look good. They haven't been looking great, but they're a good team. But you start to think about it, like, yeah, they're not really great anywhere. You can talk about other teams that are like borderline good, great. Like they're good, but they have like great spots. Like I can list off teams that are for sure not great. Like they're good, but they have great parts of their team. Like teams that are kind of, Steelers, like it's a pretty good team, and they have like that Mike Tomlin, that TJ Watt, that pass rush, like pretty great. Like they have that they can just take over a game. Just one example, I suppose. Vikings, like Justin Jefferson, they get separation, but that's not it's like just a good team, but they have these great parts to the team. And the Seahawks do they have a great player? I guess the receivers should be great, but there's nothing about a unit about this team where it's like, yes, that team will take over. This team will consistently be great. This unit was consistently be great. I don't have that with them. They got good players everywhere, guys that could be elite. Witherspoon may be on his way, more players than just that. But it's like when you're going into any week, it's like you can't say for sure that part of that team could win the game. It will be great. You can't really say that about them. So that's where I'm at with them, if that makes sense. Try to explain that the best way I could. It made sense to me. I thought the entire team struggled. Like the entire team. Like Leonard Williams had some good moments. Obviously, like specific Witherspoon had some great moments. He also had, getting carried for a first down. But I thought he had a good game overall. But and Jordan Brooks had a pick six. He racked up some tackles. But I don't think there was like something consistently, like the whole team just felt like it struggled at some point during this game or during all the game. Is QB a need? Big question mark there. Geno is not nearly the same as he was last year. It's weird. It's like I can't really explain why he's throwing to the ball the other team sometimes. It's like some guys, it's like they're late on the throw. It's off target. Their footwork's not right. This, that, it's just he just has bad decision making. It's really what it is. So he's not nearly the same as I thought he was really good last year. He's not nearly the same as this year. They gave him that contract. Pretty big contract. Wasn't a crazy big contract, so maybe not the end of the world, but still not a great look. Do they need a quarterback while he's on that contract? But is he 100%? So these are questions I ask you. I think I know I think the answer for most people are probably yes and yes for both those. So, but the Seahawks are very beatable. I want that offense and defense to be in sync at the same time. I want them to have something that really stands out. Like they have players that really, like Witherspoon, Leonard Williams, like these guys stand out. Kenneth Walker, if he's in there, like DK will stand out here and there. But I want like units, parts of this team to be consistent and stand out. I want to be able to go like, yes, that team could win because of that group right there. I'm saying they can win because they're a pretty good team, but I'm not saying it because of that reason. So that's where I'm at with the Seahawks here. But that that wraps it up for the Thanksgiving recap. The thought of this woke up and thought of like, let's do this now. It's the same video as Monday. We'll have the Friday and Sunday games on Monday. So like this idea. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments if you think I missed on at any point. I always talk with you guys on Twitter, but that is going to do it for this one. Thanks everyone for watching. Goodbye.